Every major airline on the planet was fighting for Airbus A350 delivery slot. Singapore Airlines used it to fly the world's longest non-stop flight, over 9,500 miles from Singapore to Newark, a route that was previously retired because no aircraft could fly it profitably. Qatar Airways built its entire long-haul strategy around it. Delta Airlines specifically chose it for its most competitive transatlantic route. The A350 wasn't just a good aircraft. It was the aircraft that the smartest, most aggressive airlines in the world were building their futures around. So when American Airlines, the world's largest airline, walked away from 22 of them and replaced them with Boeing 787s, the aviation world had one question: why? The answer starts long before American Airlines ever got involved. Go back to late 2005. US Airways was in serious financial trouble, burning through cash, trying to survive. Around that same time, the airline placed an order for 20 Airbus A350 aircraft. But here's the detail most people miss. That order wasn't purely a business decision. Airbus handed US Airways a $250 million loan to help keep the airline alive. In return, US Airways ordered the A350. So from day one, this commitment wasn't built on fleet strategy. It was built on financial survival. By 2007, the order had grown to 22 aircraft, shifting toward the larger A350-900 variant. US Airways was even positioned to become the launch customer of the entire A350 program. It looked like a long-term partnership. Then everything changed overnight. In December 2013, American Airlines and US Airways merged, creating the largest airline in the world. And along with the routes, the staff, the hubs, and the frequent flyer programs, American inherited something it never asked for: an order for 22 Airbus A350-900s. This is the detail that changes everything. American Airlines didn't choose the A350. It absorbed it. And the leadership now running the combined carrier had built their entire long-haul philosophy around Boeing, not Airbus. Before the merger, American was already operating Boeing 777s, retiring aging 767s, and actively receiving deliveries of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The pilot training programs, the maintenance contracts, the spare parts inventory, all of it was built around Boeing wide bodies. Walking into the merged airline, the A350 order felt less like an asset and more like a problem. Here's what most people don't realize about running an airline at this scale. Every aircraft type you operate is its own ecosystem. Separate pilot type ratings, separate maintenance certifications, separate tooling at every facility, separate spare parts inventory where individual components on a wide body can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, separate supplier contracts, separate technical support agreements. And when you introduce a brand new aircraft type, you build all of that from scratch. A single wide-body type rating for a pilot costs between $30,000 and $50,000. Multiply that across every crew member qualified to fly the aircraft, then add the maintenance technician certifications, the tooling, the parts, the contracts, across 22 aircraft operated over a 20-plus year service life, and the real cost of introducing a new type goes into hundreds of millions of dollars beyond the purchase price. That's not a rounding error. That's a decision. And American Airlines already had the 787 running. Deliveries had started in 2015. Pilots were type-rated. MRO contracts were signed. The spare parts were stocked. The 787-8 was replacing aging 767-300 yards on transatlantic and Latin American route. The 787-9 was covering longer missions previously flown by the 777-200ER. The aircraft fit perfectly into the existing network. Adding 47 more Dreamliners wouldn't create new complexity. It would deepen something American had already paid to build. The A350, on the other hand, would mean building an entirely parallel operational world inside an airline already managing one of the most complex mergers in aviation history. By September 2017, American Airlines President Robert Isom confirmed publicly what insiders had suspected for months. The A350 order was under active review, and fleet simplification had become the airline's top priority. Airbus didn't give up quietly. The manufacturer came back with steep discounts and flexible terms in a last-ditch effort to save the deal, reportedly one of the most aggressive pricing offers on a wide body in recent memory. But American still wasn't convinced. On April 6, 2018, the airline officially canceled all 22 A350-900 orders and simultaneously signed a new agreement with Boeing for 47 787 Dreamliners, 22 787-8s and 25 787-9s, worth approximately $12 billion at list price. American's president described it as a difficult decision, but said the goal of fleet simplicity made the 787 the more compelling choice. And for a few years it looked like the right call. Then Boeing stopped delivering Dreamliners. Not slowed down, stopped. Between 2021 and 2023, the FAA launched a production quality investigation after inspections revealed fuselage joint problems and manufacturing defects that didn't meet precision tolerances. At one point, Boeing went over a year without delivering a single 787. This hit American Airlines at the worst possible moment. Post-pandemic travel demand came back faster than anyone expected. Airlines with wide body capacity grabbed route. Delta, which had continued expanding its A350 fleet, had options. United Airlines, which maintained a diversified wide-body strategy, had flexibility. American had already retired its entire A330 fleet in 2020. There was no backup. The strategy built on simplicity had quietly created a single point of failure, and it became visible exactly when the market rewarded airlines who could move fast. So was it the right decision? Simplifying around the 787 was logical, disciplined, and defensible inside a post-merger integration. But walking away from 22 A350s at what may have been the most competitive pricing Airbus had ever offered, then watching Boeing's production collapse at the exact moment travel rebounded. That's a trade-off American Airlines is still living with. The airline gained simplicity, but it gave up resilience. And in an industry where the only constant is uncertainty, that gap between simplicity and resilience is exactly where the real cost of this decision shows up.